All right, welcome back, guys. We are now inside the cab of the new B-Series skid steers from Case. The first thing you're going to notice jumping in here is your pillars. They are completely different. They've completely redesigned the pillars. You may recognize this screen if you're familiar with Case products. This is actually the screen from their loader line. And then over here on the left-hand side, you're also going to notice a complete redesign. Your AAC and your basically all of your HVAC controls have been moved down here to the bottom. They were up top. And then the next thing you're going to notice is the new controls. They completely redesigned the sticks. In my opinion, these are much more comfortable to hold on to. They did move a couple of the buttons around, which isn't that big of a deal. It took me about 2 minutes to get familiar with them, and it hasn't been a problem since. So essentially what you've got here is your first hydraulic function. You've actually got your auxiliary hydraulics. It still has the detent, which in my opinion was one of the best things that Case did with their So, I'm sorry, with their hydraulics package. You do have your parking brake and you have float here. On the front side, you have a trigger that is for ride control. That has not changed position. Well, it has kind of. It used to be on the side here. It's changed to the front, but it is still on your right-hand side. Over here on the left, you've got your on-off button for your auxiliary hydraulics out front. You have auxiliary functions 2 and 3. And here's a big difference here. Your rabbit and turtle mode have changed to a thumb operation instead of being on the side like it was in the Alpha series. On the front, it's not going to work because it's not powered on, but you have your horn. So the controls are very, very comfortable. I love the ergonomic feel of them. They're far more comfortable than the old design. Moving up here to the pillar, this is the best thing Case has done with this new B-Series. I absolutely hated the Alpha Series pillar, as did most people. It was not intuitive at all. This is a great redesign. Essentially what they've done is they've simplified everything. So you have one knob that's going to actually control the power and startup of the machine instead of having 14 little buttons here. I exaggerate, it used to be 4. But regardless, instead of a bunch of buttons, we're going to turn it there. That gives us power. We're going to wait for it to cycle. By the way, while we're waiting for this to fire up, another redesign, this little window clip. This slides nice and easy. It's not a total redesign. We'll see how it holds up, but compared to the old Alpha series, that was a pretty big step up. Anyway, so we've got power here. Man, look at that. A reverse camera. It's so awesome, and it's really high quality picture too. So that's a fantastic upgrade to this unit. You've got a very straightforward user interface instead of that little LCD display that was ridiculously hard to read and you had to wait for it to cycle through all your engine parameters. Right there you got engine coolant temperature, your battery voltage, hydraulic temperature, fuel, all easy to access. RPM right here in the middle. We're going to get into it in just a second, but this is actually where you're going to have your creep control settings, which is another feature on these machines that wasn't on the Alpha series. You've got your hour meter and your job timer. So right here you've actually got a display showing you what your settings are on. For any of you who are familiar with the Alpha series, you used to have to go into a stupid menu system that required you jumping up and down out of the seat and pushing the right key combination and going through those non-intuitive menus. It's so easy on this new machine. They did such a great job with it. Right below your main display here, you've got your pattern selector. It's really hard to see. This is one thing I wish they would have done just a hair better, is it's really hard to see what mode you're in. These letters here actually light up depending on what mode you're in, but even today, it's a nice sunny day. It's really, really hard to see, and as far as I can see, there's no indicator up here on the display of which control pattern you're in. So, you know, had they done an LED button or something right here, that would have been a little more helpful, but again, I feel like I'm kind of nitpicking. Below that, like I said, we've got our starting sequence here. So you've got just unit power, you've got run, and you've actually got start, which you're gonna turn just like the ignition key in a car. Directly below that, I never would have guessed, I had to look it up in the manual, that is a microphone for your Bluetooth so that you can actually talk while you're operating, hands-free, Bluetooth. Great feature. Finally, you're going to notice that what they did, the old Alpha series, just for people who are not familiar with the old Alpha series, you used to have a series of 4 buttons right here. The first one was power, the second one was start, and the third one was operate. And the operate button is what actually engaged the hydraulics in the machine and took the power brake off. Or parking brake, I'm sorry. Now what they've done is once you get the machine fired up, you have one big, very obvious button, push to operate. And that works in reverse, as I'll show you here in just a minute. When you want to lock the hydraulics, set the parking brake to change any of your parameters up here, as far as your EH controls or stuff like that, you're just going to push that again. It's going to relock the hydraulics. It's going to reset the parking brake. And now you're free to move up into the screen and actually adjust your EH controls. Directly below that, you've got your hand throttle. Instead of having a lever, this is very easy to turn. You actually have a pretty easy way of adjusting, so if you're not wanting to run full throttle. And then directly behind that, or below that, you've got your lights. Moving over to this pillar, like I said, all of your climate controls have been moved down here to the bottom, so you have your AC engagement, climate controls, windshield wipers. This is actually your bucket auto level, which basically as the bucket comes up, it keeps it level. If you want to turn that off, the bucket will actually come up and it won't adjust the angle. I don't know if I'm showing that good on the video, but then the big new feature, creep control. We're going to get into that. You've got your beacon. This is a holdover from the old Alpha series. You have your rabbit mode indicator, and then they've changed the icon, but the functionality is the same for your hydraulic coupler. Let's move back over here to the menu system. I'm actually going to fire this unit up so I can show you a couple things. So we're just going to take our key, we're going to turn it to run, start, and there you go. So one thing I haven't figured out, and this could just be me not knowing enough about the machine and not spending much time in it. Let me shut this window so it's a little quieter. I don't know that you can actually adjust your EH controls from this screen. So when you push this button, it does select it. I don't know if you can see that, but I don't know how to actually adjust these parameters from this screen. Maybe someone can comment down below and let me know. You have your reverse camera that you can turn on and off. And essentially it's going to give you more parameters. So you have your trip meter essentially for hours, your average engine load, fuel usage, fuel rate, and okay, here's where it shows you what pattern you're in. So that's good to know. So if I hold H, it will switch over to H. If I hold ISO, let's see if it does it. I had to wait for the second beep. I rushed it. It will switch over to ISO. And then if you want your camera back, you just hit that button, boom, there's your camera back. You do have a series of settings that you can go into. Let's see here, if I go into my menu button, you actually have a maintenance record you can go into where it will tell you what maintenance needs to be performed and when. You can go through and check all of your sensors. A lot of this is going to be troubleshooting stuff, but most important is this security code. As many of you know, you could lock the old Alpha series, but again, I used to work for a dealership and we even struggled to navigate the menu to adjust your security code. This is super straightforward now. You just go in, whoops, I hit the wrong button. You just basically go into this menu, and it's super straightforward to set up your user code. That is way more user-friendly than the old interface. The other big thing I wanted to show you is the adjustability of your EH controls. So we're going to go down here to Easy EH. Again, this used to be a very non-intuitive menu system. Now it's all very straightforward. It's right here. You can select each individual parameter, go over to where you want to set it. We'll leave that one for now, but it's really straightforward, and then back right out of it, boom, you're all set. No more guessing, no more trying to keep track of where you're at in the menus. It's just very well done. So that being said, when we're ready to run, you're going to notice right here that we have the parking brake set and we have the hydraulics locked. I'm gonna go right here. My lap bar is down. Push that button. We now have a green light and our parking brake is off. And you'll see when I pull up on there, we're live. Now in reverse, let's say I wanted to go in and change some of the EH parameters. All I'm gonna do, I'm gonna push this button, you're gonna see it lock back in. Let's do that. Locked hydraulics, set parking brake, and now we can go down here and we can change our pattern. And that's locked in. Change it back to ISO. And then we're gonna run back here, push our push to operate, and we're ready to rock again. So that being said, we're gonna switch over to a different camera, and I'm actually gonna go through some of the creep settings, and I'll actually show you this in operation. Okay, so now I wanted to actually show you some operation of the machine. The biggest thing you're gonna notice from just a feel standpoint is the new EH controls. They're super responsive. You don't have that crazy lag time that you had, and crazy might be a bit of an exaggeration, but if you ran the old Alpha series, you notice there was quite a bit of lag from the time that I pushed my controls to when you actually started moving. And it is a lot quicker on the response time now. You don't have that lag. It feels a lot more natural. You feel a lot more connected to the machine like you do on a traditional mechanical controlled machine. The other thing that's really nice is your throttle valve, or your throttle knob here. It's really easy to turn. You can be very precise with it. If I want to go all the way, we can do that, but if I really want to dial it down for doing some more delicate work, you can absolutely do that. One of the big features that I did want to show you that wasn't super intuitive at first, probably playing with it a little, I would have figured it out, but I did get into the manual for this one, is the operation of the creep control. The same thing with our ISO selector switch, or our pattern switcher, is true over here. I wish they would have put a little bit brighter lights, just because in the daylight it is really hard to see. At least with creep control, you do have an indicator up here on my screen. So right here, I don't know how well it's going to turn out in this video because of the camera. You have the case emblem. When I hold this creep control, that case emblem goes away and you now have the picture of a snail and it gives you a number. The default is 50, which means it's only going to operate at 50% of the machine speed. So now if I push all the way forward on my control, we're only going to move at 50% of the speed the machine's capable of going in this mode. Now, the nice thing is I can use my rabbit and turtle mode here on my controller with my thumb, and I can actively dial that while we're moving. And this number is going to change as I do it. So I can do it by doing one detent at a time. So each time I push the button, we're losing a number. So there's 43, 42, 41, 40. And you can see we're getting gradually slower. Now, if you want to change that drastically, if I push and hold it for a second, now it's going to go down substantially. So we just dropped to 15 in that time. I'm going to do the opposite and hold the rabbit. Now we're all the way back up to 72. And you can see the machine is changing its speed as we do this. So if you're running a mill or a broom or something where you want to be able to adjust that speed, be precise, be consistent, the creep is awesome on this machine, and they've done it in a way that's really easy once you know which buttons to push to adjust it. When you're ready to take creep off, bring the machine to a stop so that nothing's engaged. You're going to hold that snail button again. Now we're back in normal operation, and if you push your rabbit mode, you're going to see that it turns on your rabbit light. We're back in rabbit mode on the actual machine. So it's a really well done feature that they put in this thing. I really like the way they put it together. So that's kind of the big overview. Everything else from an operation standpoint on these new machines is pretty much the same. Not a whole lot has changed from a just operator standpoint. But as far as the feels, the responsiveness of the EH controls, the creep function, this screen, what a freaking game changer. I'm so glad that Case finally got on board with actually putting that on a screen where you can see what you're doing. The old pillar was just just a disaster. So I'm really happy with it. I hope you guys are happy with it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And if I don't know the answer, I still have contacts from my old position of selling these machines that I can absolutely get some answers for you guys. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.